What is going on, guys? This is the Poke Tea Time podcast where we serve you up a cup of the hottest takes on what's going on in the Pokemon community. I'm not Shivam, and we are joined today this evening by Collectibles, aka Dan. How's it going, man?
It's going very well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. We were just talking a little bit about the whole Vegas thing, but with the Pokemon Saves the World event, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But I hope you're doing well. I've wanted you on the podcast for quite some time now, simply because I've had Nick, I've had pretty much almost everyone here, but you've been on this list of just numerous amounts of people that are essentially what I consider forefronts or influential people in this hobby. You've been around for quite some time now, so it's an honor to have you here. It's really cool just to have people like yourself in the community. I think the last time I saw you was I saw you briefly in Orlando, but I was running around doing a bunch of different stuff for Collecticon. But I think the last time we actually had a full on conversation was probably in Vegas. But
Yep.
some people are here. They're saying they're here just so you don't get fined. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Dan, tell us who you are, how long you've been in the hobby, where does this passion come from for Pokemon? Because obviously we see it on your wall. Just tell us your journey into Pokemon and tell us a little bit more about what you do and who you are as an individual, and we'll get right into deep diving into you as a person.
Sounds good. First of all, I appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to chat with fellow collectors, businesses, Pokemon enthusiasts, whatever you've got going on in the Pokemon space. But yeah, I'm 32, so I kind of had the classic 1999 story when it all
Solid.
came out. I was into the cards. I actually wasn't into the anime that much when I was younger, but it was mainly cards and game for me. And I'm showing the wrong wall, but over to my right here, there's a big Pokemon Yellow poster.
Solid.
I don't- There it is.
Oh,
So
that is cool.
yeah, I was a yellow guy and then Crystal. So Gen 1, Gen 2 are like my main nostalgia. Those were my favorite games. And I again, typical 1999 story. I got out of it in the very early 2000s. I don't remember exactly when, but if I look back at my childhood binder, a little bit of like Gym series, and then I don't think there was any Neo series at all.
Same,
So
same for me. Same.
yeah,
I
I think that
stopped
was a
around then. I
fairly
think I think the Yu-Gi-Oh wave hit me really hard, and so that's when I kind of stopped away from Neo, which it was more so because of the fact that my parents wouldn't buy it for me. And I was jealous of kids who had Neo cards, and I loved the Neo era. I love Silver version. But yeah, that's really cool.
yeah. I never got into Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, nothing else really. It was just Pokemon, and then though I got done with the cards, I actually continued on through the games. I think I went with the games a little bit longer. I forget the exact time frame, but like Sapphire was the last one that I bought when it originally came out. Um, the best man in my wedding several years ago. He actually went. We were childhood friends, and we were like the link cables hooked up, the worm lights late at night on car ride, camping trips, whatever. So
Solid.
yeah, the Game Boy games are my core nostalgia, and then the cards a close second. Um, but then I got out of it for several years. Honestly, I didn't even know Pokemon was still a thing from probably the years mid 2000s until like 2014 is when I fully got back into it. XY Phantom Forces was the newest set. And basically, what it was, I bought a house in 2013 and I just moved a bunch of boxes and totes out of my parents' house into my new one. Sometime in 2014 or late 2013, I was going through things, found that binder, and it just prompted me to go do a Google search. And it's like, wow, there's been, I think Phantom Forces was like the 70 something set. So it's like I missed 50 or 60 sets. Let me go back and literally open every one that I missed. And that was my initial goal when I got back into the hobby, to open a box of every set.
Have you accomplished that?
I did. I did within
Dang.
within a couple of years. Thankfully, my timing was lucky because I don't think unless you have a much more substantial bankroll than I do, I don't think that would be a feasible goal for most people getting back into it today.
No,
Um,
it's very difficult. That's actually really cool. You got it. So you fully got back in 2014.
yep. Yeah, and
Wild.
then like some of the boxes that I opened, the ones that come to mind as being the expensive ones, I think EX Deoxys, I paid a little over a grand. Neo Destiny First Edition, I paid 23. I forget if it's 2,300 or 3,200. Aquapolis, I was buying multiple boxes at like 1,600 a piece. And I was opening these. I was opening some of them I was opening completely, but mostly I was like opening the heavies and then grading the light packs or just selling them to art set collectors as light packs.
Mm.
But yeah, that was
Wild.
I wish I had a YouTube channel back then because imagine having like I just did that on my own. My wife would open some of the boxes with me. I have the memories. I can go back and look at like the grading submissions. I graded a lot of the hollows, but I don't have videos. Like I wish I had a YouTube channel at the time to document it more thoroughly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of. Is that why you document yourself now
Yep.
more often, just because of that?
Yep, that's honestly like a big part of the reason because I didn't know if it was going to turn into anything. A big part of the reason that I went to opt for creating a YouTube channel was documenting for myself, kind of a selfish reason. Like, hey, I'm going to put stuff out there. I don't know if anyone's going to care. I don't know if anyone's going to watch, but I'm still going to do it, give it a shot. And worst case, it'll be like a video journal for me to look back over the collections that I buy, the conventions that I go to, all this and that. So it's turned into, I mean, I'm not a massive channel by any means, but it's turned into more than I would have expected a little over a year later.
Yeah, that's solid, man. That's actually really cool to hear that, you're opening numerous amounts of Aquapolis boxes. So, out of all the sets you've opened, because not many people can say they've opened up every single set. How many? What would you say is your favorite set to open of all time?
It's kind of a lame answer probably, but like base is still just because of the nostalgic tie.
Okay.
As far as like the feeling that I get from doing it, it would be base. But as far as like the arts go, some of my I'm terrible at picking favorites. But some of my favorites, I actually loved Hidden Fates. I think it was really cool to bring the
Yeah.
shiny vault in there. Um, but yeah, base is great. I love the e-reader series. It's a
Mm-hmm.
shame that I got out a couple of years before like experiencing them as they were new and coming onto the scene. But there's beautiful stuff all throughout though. Like I can appreciate. I know some people hate them, the level X's and the primes and the old school EXs are more well received. I think generally the gold stars are beautiful. I really loved what Celebrations did, kind of honoring Pokemon's history. I thought that was a great way, the 25th anniversary set. The one thing I will say, and one of my like regrets from earlier on, base set first edition is the only box that I didn't open. So like all the WotC sets I opened in first edition variety except for base, but I think I opened every foreign language. So like I did Korean, Italian, French, Dutch, German, Spanish. I'm pretty sure I hit them all, but I never. I was watching. I'm sure you know TCA Gaming.
Yeah, good old
He
Rusty.
bought the box. Yeah, he bought the box for $10,000 that I was eyeing on collector's cash, and I just couldn't pull the trigger years ago.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's see that's a video that I'd like to do. Ask collectors, just like long-term collectors or short-term collectors, like what's their biggest regret when it came to collecting? What was it that they passed on? We got Nick in the chat. Shout out to good old school Pokemon. Old school Pokemon. Gotta love the guy. Can't wait to see you in Houston, buddy. I mean in Dallas, buddy. I hope he's there. Um,
Charlotte, he's going to.
Oh, he's Charlotte. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, he's not doing that. He can't do the back to back just like myself.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Charlotte is like 2 hours away from me, so I'm really pumped about that one just because I don't have to fly. I can just drive to it. Um, so I'm actually really pumped about that. But no, that's actually really cool. Is there any particular card that you feel like you like? So we know that the box that you regret on. Is there any particular product or any particular card that you regret not buying more of, or is there something that you felt that was extremely undervalued at that time that you passed up on that you regret buying?
I think the easy answer would be that I should have just bought more of everything, and instead of tearing through every single box that I bought, I should have maybe kept a couple sealed.
Mm,
But I'm one of those guys that like sealed product doesn't survive around me.
that's fair.
Um, yeah, it's but like all said and done, I don't really regret anything. I say the closest thing to a regret, I guess, would be the base first box. But if I had bought that, that was a ton of capital for me at the time.
Hmm.
It would have maybe made me miss a big collection buy or something else along the
For
way.
sure.
So
Yeah. Hindsight's only 2020. You know.
yeah, it's easy to say I should have bought that box and kept it sealed and sold it to Logan Paul for 400 grand or 350 grand.
Hey, I mean, you could have been in one of those videos. You could have been in one of
Yeah.
those videos. Um, is there? I know that video games were a big part of your childhood and your upbringing. Do you collect any factory sealed video games?
I I would really love to get Crystal and Yellow would be my two like grails just because they were my favorite games growing up. Thankfully, I have like the complete inbox, the ones that
Okay,
I actually played. Last I checked, the save file actually still works on Yellow. I haven't
dude,
checked it
that is
probably in like
cool.
6 months, but yeah, I need to check that again now that I'm
You
thinking
should.
about it. But Crystal, like years ago,
I was gonna
Crystal
say
years
if
ago, the save file corrupted.
that would happen with my blue version a lot. It would get corrupted every now and then. I don't have any of my my old school Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean my Game Boy games because I had to sell it for utility money at the time in college, but uh uh it would be really cool for you to trade all the Pokemon in your yellow version all the way up to the most latest game. And so like you literally have to have I watched a video on like how like all the game systems you would need to literally trade all your Pokemon from the oldest of oldest games from yellow or like red or blue all the way up to the most recent game. So it's one of those things that is I would like to see you do. That would be really cool to see happen. Like just get it all the way up to I don't know, like the most mainline game. I think the last mainline game was what um it's not Sun and Moon. It's Sword and Shield. That'd be really cool to see them in Sword and Shield. It's like, hey, these were my Pokemon in Sword and Shield. Um,
And I honestly forget, like my yellow save file wouldn't be my original playthrough because I played
right.
through it multiple times back
Yeah.
then. I'm not even sure exactly which playthrough it would have been, probably my 10th or something, but
Yeah. Same.
still would have been a very old playthrough. But yeah, I haven't. I've been buying all the newer games first, but I think the last game that I played, I started Sun and Moon, but I didn't even beat it. I didn't even finish it. I'm like probably halfway through it.
Yeah. I
Um,
think the last I haven't played Sword and Shield. I didn't play Sun and Moon either. I think the last time I bought Brilliant Diamond, but I haven't played it. Like I played Diamond and Pearl. That was the last mainline game I ever played. But after that I didn't play anything after that. So Brilliant Diamond I bought. I haven't really played. I think I probably played like 5 minutes of it. But I played Legend Arceus, and that was a beautiful game. Um, but yeah, let's get into like the more serious stuff. Uh, uh, the business side of Pokemon. So, there's a few people in here that are talking about this recession, this impending recession that's going to come eventually. But we're gonna touch on that a little bit later. Let's talk about the business side of Pokemon. So you got back into Pokemon in 2014. Where would you say the business side of Pokemon started for you? Where did you see um, this side of you generating an income or generating profit, or where did you see that start at for you?
yeah, so 2014 when I got back in, basically I was a chemical engineer by profession, and I was that same job, same company up until a year ago when I quit. But my initial foray into Pokemon was basically just I'm gonna take $5,000 out of my savings and I'm gonna relive my childhood. I'm gonna collect. But I've always been like being an engineer, one for efficiency, one for optimization. So I wanted to make my money go as far as I possibly could. And I had an eBay account. I sold my childhood video games, except for the Pokemon games. I sold like PlayStation 2 games and my
Yeah, of
old
course.
systems and things like that because GameStop tried robbing me when I brought them there. So I had also bought and sold some coins and stuff on eBay. So I was familiar with eBay, and I said I took a look at eBay. I took a look at some things that I could buy, and I'm like, why buy single cards when I can just buy whole collections, sell off what I don't want, and then keep what I do want for free? So along with collecting, well, along with opening one of every box along the way, I wanted to create a binder set of every set along the way. And I
Hmm.
wanted to get all the chase cards. When I learned about PSA early into collecting, 2014, 2015 was my first submission to PSA. I decided that I wanted to grade every chase card, every Hollow card, every Prime Level X Gold Star, all the way up to like the full arts and the EXs in X and Y. I wanted to grade those in PSA 9. So like yeah, the first 6 years, 5 to 6 years was basically just $5,000, churning it through, buying collections, grading, selling off. I never took money out and I never put more money in. I just put literally thousands of hours of my time and passion into it. And then when 2020 hit, we strapped aboard the rocket to the moon and everything just went insane. And it's like I had all these cards that I had never intended selling, or at least not for a long time, because they were achieving prices that I anticipated. Maybe they'd achieve these in 20 years or something, and they did it just in 2020. So I sold off for the first time since I was in the hobby. I sold off a substantial amount of my collection in 2020, and to the extent like six figures, to the extent to where I was able to pay off my house, become debt free, and
Wow.
yeah, with that, I started thinking more seriously about all of it. I mean, I loved my job as a chemical engineer, but there were certain things as far as like you've got to go in Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week, if not more. The bosses want more. And just that, I never saw myself, even before Pokemon was a thing, I never saw myself working a 9 to 5 for 40 to 50 years until I was 70 and then retiring. I saw myself retiring earlier and then doing my own thing. I didn't know what my own thing was until Pokemon kind of hit me in the face and became that my own thing. Um, Propelled by I mean, an unfortunate situation, the pandemic and all that, but that really opened my eyes to what this could be, and it came down to I was trying to keep up with everything. I was doing it so much, and then I have two children now, that I had in 2018 and 2020. So it became like I have to choose one or the other, a
Mm.
chemical engineer or eBay. And I chose eBay.
Man, that is such an awesome story.
Yeah.
So from 2014 all the way up to 2020, you did not put a dime more than $5,000 that you initially put in. You just kept recycling, rinsing, repeating the entire time. That is wild,
Yeah.
dude.
If you had figured out my hourly rate, I'm not even sure how impressive it would have been pre-boom.
Obviously,
Like,
yeah.
but because I had a six-figure collection pre-boom, and then the boom turned that into, I mean, substantially more.
Right. Of course.
But yeah, it uh it's still crazy to think about the fact that I do this full time now. I love it. The freedom is nice, being my own boss, setting my own hours. Um, and the YouTube happened. So I quit my job in July of 2021, coming up on a year. I started YouTube with Old School. We started the podcast together
Yeah.
in March of 2021. So at the time that I created it, I mentioned earlier that part of my thing was like a selfish, I want to document my journey through Pokemon. But the other part was like, I think I'm going to quit my job and do this full time. So 4 months later, I fully committed and made the decision. But I think YouTube like lends itself very well to an eBay business because they both kind of feed each other and they benefit from each other. I've
100%.
had so many people reach out to me. I've bought their collections, or they've saw like I do PSA graded card returns when I get a return back. they'll see them on my YouTube, they'll reach out, they'll buy it directly, save some fees and all that. So I think YouTube lends itself well to running a Pokemon business as I
Yeah,
do.
I fully agree with the social media side on top of running a business in this space. I think you can have a successful business without great marketing, but great marketing adds on top of a already successful business. You know, I came into this space, not as long as you've been here. I came in right in April of 2019. I was just buying and opening, evolutions and Detective Pikachu packs at the time, and some Sun and Moon here and there. And around 2019 is when I started taking everything seriously, and that's when I started buying PSA 9 graded cards because I thought they were extremely undervalued, which they were at the time. And at that time you could buy near mint condition cards off of eBay and Troll and Toad, and you could just cherry pick which ones you wanted at the time. And
Yep.
if they said it was near mint, it legitimately meant it was near mint. Now you can't go on eBay and you can't even find near mint condition cards. It's very tough. So like you buying collections out, that's probably the smartest thing you could potentially do at that time. I was buying some binder collections here and there, but not the extent of what you guys were doing at that time. So I just felt like that was my way of getting into vintage at that time, and it essentially just ended up becoming it was a passion project of mine to get what I had when I was a kid, or to get things that I never had as a kid. Actually, my cousins and my half brother, they had Charizards, I didn't, and I was like, man, it just, the jealousy back then kind of fueled this obsession that I currently have today. And it's really cool to see that it paid off your house, that Pokemon extended from what it is as a hobby to benefiting your livelihood on a regular basis. And now you're full-time, and I think the vast majority of people who are in this space kind of want to do what you want to do, myself included. Not to this exact same extent, but all of us who are in this space, who put hours upon hours into Pokemon or collecting or creating and producing content, do want to go full-time Pokemon. So, it's really cool and really inspiring to hear your story, because it's very similar in a way to what Nick was talking about. It's like, yeah, I worked all the way up, and then I just recently became full-time Pokemon. I was like, really? Recently now? Like, I would have thought that a lot of you guys were full-time Pokemon, like, in 2019 by then. But, no, that's really cool to hear. Congratulations on making that move and making that transition. So, I kind of want to talk about after the boom, right? We talked about, the success that came out of 2020 for a lot of people who have spent hours upon hours into this hobby and how they benefited from it. But let's talk about what happened after 2020. Obviously, the market corrected significantly after 2020. For people like yourself that cashed out in some way, shape, or form. I wouldn't say entirely cashed out, because like a lot of people do carry a lot of the things that they held on to, and didn't sell out everything. But what was that like for you? Was that scary for you when you saw things correcting heavily and seeing your inventory literally dwindle in value significantly? Was that something that yourself and Nick and people like Gem and Pokemon, was that something that worried you guys, or was this something that you guys kind of experienced because you guys have been through the highs and lows of Pokemon? Was that something that essentially, affected your decision when it came to becoming full-time Pokemon?
Yeah, it might sound weird, and it kind of feels weird to think this way and say this, but I felt better. I was more scared in 2020 when we were on the rocket. It just all
Really?
felt so like I was so stressed out because I was thinking like I've got this full-time job, I've got this newborn and then my toddler, and I've got this eBay business on the side that like if I had quit my job 1 year earlier, I could have sold substantially more than I did, and I'd be in a lot better place. But yeah, it was so stressful because like I wanted to grind out as much as I could.
Mm.
I wanted to sell things as quickly as I could. Um, in a way, it's kind of a balance. Like, had I been full time sooner, maybe I would have sold too much too soon, and then I might have sold out too early. Quitting my job later, I was limited on time, so I was only able to sell out as much as I did. Like, I probably sold like throughout that whole 6 year span between 2014 and 2020, I compiled, I just built up like a hoarder level backlog of my own personal stuff, like totes and boxes. I'd buy a collection for 10 grand. I'd sell off 10 grand worth. I'd add in a few cards to my collection, and then I'd have like three totes just stack in the basement, in the garage, wherever. And so like this first year of being full time, I'm unearthing those and I'm going through them. I've got stuff that I basically have zero cost basis into, and even though the prices are down on certain things 50%, I mean, certain things 80% from the 2020 peaks, I'm still in a really good place where my cost basis is. So, and then
Makes sense.
what modern is doing too, like a large part of my business has always been buying old collections, grading them, and then selling them.
Mhm.
But since like 2016, 2017, I got more serious into the modern distributor side. Never at a big level, but I'm trying to rapidly scale right now. 2020, I was taking what I could get, but that was a really nice cash flow boost to be able to get a few cases of every booster box at release,
I see.
and then they
Okay.
were automatically selling for like double retail right out of the gate. That was crazy. That was a nice boost to the business, and that's still doing really well right now. Like I've got ultra premium collections, evolving skies, those things that happened in recent memory that I was able to make a good margin on right out of the gate, just selling them in at market price. Obviously, you've got your battle styles, you've got your chilling rain that are not doing as well. But I mean, historically speaking, a set would be pretty much dead money for the first year or two. You'd make a buck or two a booster box, so it's better than that from several
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. I mean that
But
that
yeah,
that definitely makes sense.
I feel pretty happy where prices are at right now. They feel more realistic. In the ultra modern stuff, maybe feels a little bit bubbly almost. Certain
Yeah.
things, certain
To me, it does.
graded ultra modern and even ultra like modern sealed feels like there's a lot of investors out there keeping everything sealed, and some of the prices so early for an in-print set seem a little bit crazy, but as far as like all the older stuff feels pretty healthy to me. The numbers, the prices.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with the whole take on modern. I think SM Pratt kind of put it up very well as far as modern goes. And modern sealed product, in my honest opinion, yes, like this stuff will eventually become vintage, but the question is like with the rate of inflation and how things are. I don't know. It's really tough to say. I think like this year, just the rate of inflation just this year alone is what like 8.4% compared to 4%, 4 point something percent last year. Like it's crazy. I think
Yeah.
Jeremy Padower put up a tweet. One of the co-founders of Jazzwares, he put up a tweet showing like the last 4 years of interest rates, and it's like this is crazy. And then we're vastly approaching a recession. So like for someone like you who technically doesn't really have zero costs outside of the $5,000 you put into Pokemon ages and ages ago, when you go out to these different shows, do you find yourself buying a lot of these collections out, or are you just going just to go? Like, what is that whole process like? Because I know that Whatnot has become a huge thing in this space. It's blown up out of proportion. Um, and you see a lot of people that are kind of doing what you're already doing now. So like, do you find that it's becoming more and more difficult these days because you're competing against so many different people that are buying out collections at that kind of scale?
I so Again, like it's only been a year or so that I've been doing this full time, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting like if I stop buying anything for the next month or two, I might get through my whole backlog. I might get through the final totes that I accumulated over the first 6 years. So I've honestly been like I've been buying from PWCC, Golden, and Heritage more than I've been buying from eBay, and then I get
Okay.
the occasional viewer to reach out and I buy their collections. I have a pretty sweet Japanese collection coming in, part graded, part raw, that I'll probably have on my channel next week. I'll show it off. But so yeah, I haven't even been trying to buy too much lately. I'm hoping it's kind of a bad situation, obviously, if we go into a recession.
Yeah,
But
for everyone.
I'm trying to be as liquid as possible. I don't want to sound like I'm trying to capitalize on people's misfortune or bad, but I going into a recession, if prices are just substantially decreased from here, we got cash ready to go to buy them up. Um, that's definitely a position that I'm trying to get myself into. So I'm trying to not look to buy too many things right now. Whatever comes to me, I buy it if the price is right. But I'm trying to accumulate a solid pile of cash.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. Part of me wishes I could have cashed out, not on Pokemon, but on my other assets back in 2020, because I'd be sitting really well right now. It's kind of daunting to see Bitcoin at half of what it is now versus what it was back in 2020. But you know, I'm not in this position where I'm struggling or anything of the sort, or really in the space where I can panic about it. I'm one of those types of people that buys on the stuff and then just kind of hold on to it. Not to the same capacity like you, where you're just buying totes of stuff. I don't. I think that would kind of get me overwhelmed, because I'm one of those types of people that I like having a lot of value consolidated into one or two items, and then once that item that I personally believe is undervalued pops off in value, at that point I personally believe then it might be worth selling. But again, like, it's one of the it's tough. Do you have pieces in your possession, in your collection, that you feel like you will never ever sell?
I like 2 years ago, I would have said a lot of my collection, and then prices changed, prices went up, so it
Yeah.
just became one thing that I did in 2020. Um, we talked about PWCC a little bit. Their vault service was launching as the time, like around the time, I think I sent in March of 2021. I sent a ton of my collection there just because like I became uncomfortable having it at home. Like the
Yeah.
numbers got too crazy. I sold a lot of it in late 2020. I sold a lot more of it in early 2021. And then March 2021 came around. I sent a ton of it, a ton of my inventory and collection to PWCC. And there's just part of me that like I'm not seeing these cards every day. I'm not appreciating them every day. So I downgraded a lot of my PSA 9 collection into like binders, near mint copies, even light play, some more moderate play depending on the set, depending on
Mhm.
how expensive they were. Um, so yeah, some of it was just the numbers became too high and I felt like I had to sell stuff off. But yeah, as far as like what remains today, my childhood binder, I still have that. I sold off some of the incomplete sets, base Jungle Fossil, unlimited, like played cards that I literally had in my back pocket. I traded on the bus. Those are the cards that I'm never ever going to sell. And
Yeah.
then the next closest things, like I own a complete 1 through 4 PSA 9 full art Pikachu trophy set, the modern trophies.
Yeah.
The number it's weird kind of, but like the number 3 I'm actually most attached to because I bought that one from the winner at Washington DC Worlds. I bought that from the winner like 2 hours after it was awarded to him, and so that's like a really cool connection story to that card.
Oh, I want to touch
Um,
on that. Yeah.
yeah.
What is that like? Do you find it now, because Washington was what, 2019, right?
19.
Yeah, I
Yep.
remember that happening. Unfortunately I couldn't go to that. But what is that process like? Is that do you talk to the winner, or do you talk to a few people way beforehand, and say like, "Hey, if you win, like, what is that like setting up that buy when it comes to trophy cards?"
So the way that I did it, I think certain people are more connected than I was at the time. Probably, I mean, than I even am now still. But like David Person, if you're familiar with him, he's
Yeah.
got literally every place from every year, the full arts, the half arts, all of them. Um, so what I did was I'm pretty big, I'm pretty. I've been on E4 since 2015, and I post there a ton. I used to post there. It's funny now that I do this full time. I don't quite have the time to surf it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I don't post there as much, But before I went to Worlds, I kind of put word out there to some of my friends in the community. I'm like, I want to buy one of these full art Pikachu trophies. I put out a buy thread. I put it on E4 and then also on Verbank. And I just went down there, cash in hand, ready to go. I knew what cards had recently sold for. I kind of like, I made sure I was making a fair and reasonable offer. And when we were down there, I remember I was out to dinner. It was like an E4 dinner, a couple dozen people out of the restaurant. And when we were leaving, I checked Discord and somebody mentioned like, hey, one of my friends won. Like it wasn't the first place, it was the third place. So they're like, they won their semifinal matchup. They're getting a number 3 tonight. They think they want to sell it. So I DM'd that person. Immediately I kind of like broke off from the group. I don't think anybody really even noticed. I just like there was a couple dozen of us walking back to the hotel or wherever, and I just kind of broke off. Discord messages, got the guy's number. 20 minutes later I was on a call with him making a cash offer. Half an hour, 45 minutes later I was in the room laying out the hundreds on the hotel bed and getting that number 3 Pikachu. So it was
Dang.
crazy.
That
Yeah.
that is cool to hear. That is that
Yeah.
honestly, Dan, you have some cool stories. That is really cool. That is really cool. What did it end up grading as, if you don't mind me asking?
So all 4 of mine actually are PSA 9s. It's cool because like I've never been a 10 collector.
Yeah,
Like to me, the difference between a 9 and a 10 is so minuscule
yeah,
that I get more value personally out of the 9. I'd rather have like a complete set of 9s than 110 from the set. A lot of sets, the way the pricing works out, it just works that way. Um,
and just like the price difference between a 9 and a 10 is just so outrageous. So like I'm literally the
oh,
same way. I might as well just have a 9. Like um like when I got my Beckett 9 first edition Shadowless Charizard card, I was like, you know what? I'm content with this. I don't see myself trading
yeah,
up any, like I don't ever see myself trading up to a 10. You know, maybe in the future, maybe a 9.5, but like I just don't ever see myself, I'm just content with it. I'm happy with where I'm at with it. And it's like, just one little white speck, just that's the little difference between the 9 and 10. Cool. I'm content with that. That's like how often do you pull cards out of a pack that have just one white little speck? Like even the first issue Shadowless Charizard, the card that was pulled in Orlando, ended up getting a PSA 9. So
yeah.
I'm cool with it. It's like it just came out of a pack. There's cards that I've pulled that got an 8, but that's really cool. Yeah.
I actually pulled at Pokemon Saves the World in Vegas where we met for the first time. I actually pulled Super Duper Danny, pulled the first Shadowless Charizard, and I
Yeah.
pulled the second one, and that graded an 8. Like that's another card that's gonna be in my personal collection forever. I used to have before that. I had a PSA 9 in my personal collection. The 8, the only difference from it is like you got to turn it around. There's 2 or 3 more white specks, and it's like I don't really care. This one I pack pulled, and
Yeah.
this one I bought. It's like I would much rather have the 8 that I pulled than the 9 that I bought. So I sold my PSA 9 at the time, and the 8 is a personal collection card forever, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like it's just so cool to just talk about. Like it's grading companies will always give their opinion on what the grade is, and cool, it does add value to it. But like the fact that you pulled it and you kept it in your collection, that's sick. I think the only cool card I've ever pulled in the last 3 years was a Charizard Hyper Rare Charizard GX from Burning Shadows. It graded as an 8. Um, you know, I wasn't ever, like, I told myself I wasn't going to give it up because it was the one thing, like, I got back into the hobby, and spending $100 for me into Pokemon, to me it sounded crazy. It sounded stupid. I was like, I'm really about to spend $100 on this booster box right over here. Like, I could use this money for something else. And like each pack, like going through this 36 pack box, I was like, I'm losing money within each pack pull. I ended up pulling the card, the second to last pack, and this was like, I want to say around July. I want to say July. It was earlier on. I said, you know what? Like, if I pull this card right here, like I told myself, if I pull this card, I'm gonna go balls deep, Part of my language. I'm gonna go all in the Pokemon. And it was all dependent on pulling this card. I ended up pulling it, so it had so much meaning to me. But like
Yeah.
in 2020 when prices went up, and I was like, I didn't have like that much of a huge inventory of cards to really sell or work with, but all the cards that I had, vintage to modern, they just spiked severely in value, and at
Yeah.
that point you can't really ignore it. And so, I made an agreement. I made a deal with Ken Lee, the Pokemon Network, and I traded 11 cards, including that PSA 8 Charizard GX, to him, and I got a PSA 8 First Edition Shadowless Charizard card. And it was really tough for me to do because like every single one of those cards, like I graded, except like a couple that I bought graded. But it was stressful, and like, I had people like Gary and Rhymestyle telling me like, Shiv, this is an opportunity, like this is the grail, like you really gonna pass up the grail just to keep these cards? I'm like, you know what, you're right. If I can buy this card, if I can trade up to this card and then get these other cards eventually in the future, then that would be fantastic. But no, that's really cool. That's seeing that happen in Vegas was awesome. Like, because we went through the entire event, then Danny pulled it because like it was completely dry, and all of us were kind of freaking out about the statistics. I was like, hey, we haven't pulled this Charizard card yet. Everyone started freaking out and wondering, and then you pulled it too. That was sick.
Yep.
And that's a pack that you bought, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually bought. I ended up winning 2 of the lots from Golden, and then I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to spend 20 grand on 2 sets of packs and then go down and like pull all non-hollows.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to Nick, Old School Pokemon, and we went in 50-50. We decided that like we were going to split what we pulled. Like if one of us pulled a base first Charizard and it graded a 10, or even if my Shadowless had graded a 10, I would have felt a little bad selling off the memory, but I would have felt really good when it was $100,000 split
Yeah.
50-50 with Nick. So
Yeah.
I would take 50 grand over that memory and just keep the 9 that I had. But in a way, the fact that it graded an 8, even if it had graded a 9, I would have just sold the other 9 from my collection. But yeah, that's kind of a bittersweet thing. Like it would have been great to get the 10, but this way I get the memento that I actually pulled to keep, because there's no way I was keeping the 10.
Yeah, and you have something to like you literally have something to hold on to and look back to that event. Like that, in my eyes, I thought the event was pretty sick. It was pretty awesome, pretty small and low key. A lot of people didn't really like the live stream, and sure, like that's what happens with a live stream and a break. There's gonna be issues, and it's not often at times when you're watching it from the screen side of things, it's not the most eventful thing there is. And but it's that experience itself, just being able to go out to Vegas, and you don't really see, like, I don't think before that there were Pokemon based events like that. Like I don't think there ever was events like that when it came to Pokemon.
And everyone there had an amazing time. Like it
Yeah.
didn't translate well. It was awesome.
Yeah, the food was great. The Pokemon themed food, the decorations, everything that just came with it, I thought was super cool. Um, yeah, it was just a great time. Um, is there? Are you hoping for something like that happen again this year?
It would be cool. I probably I've actually got a video going live on my channel tomorrow recapping all the packs that I've bought, because I bought a $10,000 slot into Pokemon Saves the World. I bought a $7,000 slot into a Beta Magic pack at Orlando, which I attended. I did get a pretty decent pull of a Suvin Doppelganger, but it graded an 8 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I bought like into different whatnot streams. I bought into some box breaks. I've spent a lot of money on box breaks in the past year and a half. I kind of need to tone it down a little bit. I am a business. I do need to like have money left to take a paycheck from this. So
It's
if
okay. It's
one
okay.
happens
Nick got
again,
you covered. Nick got you covered.
yeah, if one happens again, I'd love to go to it, but I'm gonna try to not buy the packs into it. Right now on Golden, Logan Paul. I don't know if it's going to be at an event, but there is another auction for a
Mm-hmm.
box break of Logan Paul's
Yep.
boxes. So
When does that
I'm
end?
I don't know. I'm trying to not look at it. I'm trying to look away.
I saw Ken tweet it, and he's like, "Hey, Logan. Hey, by the way, guys, Logan's doing a box break," and then Logan's like, "Yeah, sorry, I haven't been promoting this as much because I've been so focused on my NFT project." And so, yeah, I'm just very curious to see how that's gonna go. You know, it'd be really cool to see how things go with that. Um, I know that we're about to, people are talking about the possibility of us going into a recession. We don't know if it's now, we don't know if it's this year, we don't know if it's next year, but if one were to hit, obviously you want to remain as liquid as possible throughout the entire ordeal. Do you see yourself taking, I hate to say taking advantage of it because I know a lot of people are going to be in, terrible situations. I know a lot of people's investments and assets are going to tremendously go down in value, but do you see yourself, like, if a good deal pops up, do you see yourself buying into stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I've been a net seller. Like for the first 6 years, I was a net buyer, like by a landslide. I put in the initial 5 grand, but then I turned it into a six-figure collection. And then I sold out like I didn't sell out 25% of what I had, but I sold out well into the six figures worth of stuff between 2020 and now. So I'm still, as of today, I'm a net seller. But if and when we go into something where prices get really, really low, I intend to go deep with it. Net buyer. Um, I'm married. My wife's a teacher. We
Mm,
we live way up in the woods in upstate New York. We live a very like Pokemon aside, I am not a spendy person at all.
for sure.
Like very, very, we're both very frugal.
Frugal.
We don't really do like food and vacations is our biggest expenses. We don't really do like name brand stuff. We we're pretty low key with that kind of stuff as
For
far as
sure.
like consumer spending. So her salary basically covers our household expenses. And then what I make, and I mean,
It's
the
like
last 2 years
cherry on
I've
top.
done really well. So what I make is essentially what goes into our 401ks and our IRAs, and we save extensively. And we do a lot of like traditional investing.
Hmm.
And then the business, like, I'm very invested into Pokemon, obviously, with my business inventory. So
Yeah.
I definitely plan to buy a lot if and when prices get really, really tempting.
Do you see yourself doing this long term, like forever?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I was a chemical engineer for 10 years and I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I knew I wasn't going to do that for 40 years. So
Hmm.
I think the way that I'm thinking now, I think forever I'll be doing eBay. Like my eBay account, I created it when I was like 16 through my parents. I think I've had it for 18 years now. So I guess when I was like 13, 14. Um, and I've sold Steins, I've sold coins, I've sold video games. I'm selling Pokemon now primarily. I think I'll always do something. I'm a collector at heart, so I'll always be collecting and kind of flipping something.
Uh-huh.
I think at minimum, the next 5 years, this is going to be 95% of what I'm doing. But beyond that, it's just so hard to say. I really don't know. I have some other ideas of what I might want to do longer term, but
Hmm.
I love this. And one thing I can confidently say, I mean, as confident as you can be, life can throw anything at you, but I intend to never work for anyone else again. I'm always going to be my own boss from here on out,
Yeah.
unless something crazy happens.
That level of freedom
'Cause-
is great to have, and it's so
you know,
undervalued in this context. Like you said, you have a wife and you have a family, and I'm sure like they appreciate you being around at all times. Like, yeah, eBay's always gonna run, and yeah, sure, you're gonna have to spend probably a decent amount of time packaging stuff up and having to do all that. And I'm sure Nick probably takes a lot of your time. But no, yeah, I think that's like the upside of it, being able to have that quality time with your family while doing something that you have a passion with is such a great thing to have. I know we touched on a lot of the great things about being in a business with like the business side of Pokemon, but what are some of the struggles that you have as a business with Pokemon? What's something that you can shed some light on for a lot of people who are wanting to start a business in Pokemon? What's like the difficulties? Because like a lot of people think, I can get into it. It's very easy. But what are some of the trials and tribulations that you face or have faced with, running a business in Pokemon?
I think one of the main things would probably be, and I think I've done pretty well with it, but I could have done better, distinguishing the line between collection and inventory. And in a perfect world, you would have a very small collection and almost, I mean, I treat 99% of my stuff as inventory, and I think you kind of need to. There are certain things that I'm more attached to that the price is just like unreasonable. The market might say that it's worth 5 grand. I'm not selling unless I get 10, like double market price. But
Yeah, of course.
the more you pull aside into your personal collection is the more money that you don't have working for you. Like if you tie up half of what your net worth in Pokemon is, if you tie up half that into what you're calling a collection, that's just money that you're
That
gonna have to
sits
turn
there.
down that. Yeah, you're gonna turn
Yeah.
down that 5 year collection buy when it comes that you could 5x or 10x maybe with grading and if you get good grades and all that. So I think I've done pretty well with it. There's certain times where I hung on to something a little bit longer than I should have, I think, but overall I've done pretty well. I guess the next thing would be uh I'm fortunate in that I'm married. If you're not married, it's definitely a tougher go of it as far as health insurance and all that goes. It's not something that I've had to worry about, but uh yeah, getting your health insurance situation straightened around and uh that's probably the next best thing or the next tough thing if you
Mm,
don't have it sorted through
yeah,
like a
for sure.
spouse.
Yeah. Do you what do you, what's do you ever experience difficulties with customers? Like, is there an ongoing issue that you personally believe is available on different selling platforms? Do you see yourself selling on any other platform outside of eBay? Like, what's that like for you?
So as of right now, I probably do a little over half of my sales through eBay, and I do a decent portion through Troll and Toad actually. Troll and
Hmm.
Toad Evo, it's called. It's almost like
Yep.
a fulfillment by Amazon service.
Your audio has cut out. No, it's kind of like really really low. No, it's still coming in pretty low. No. Do you have headphones? Yeah, check if you have headphones because I cannot hear anything that you're saying. Pardon this interruption, guys, while Dan finds his headphones, and hopefully, while he's doing that, Nick can return the shopping cart. Do 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 do. Elevator music.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but now I can't see you.
Okay. Let me try to get reconnected to video.
There we go.
I have no idea what happened there. Sorry for that.
No, you're good. We're experiencing some levels of difficulty between the feed being lagged and some aspects, but I think it's just due to my network connectivity. But it says that I'm in green on all aspects on OBS and everything else. But
It's probably me living in the woods with my DSL. It's
nah, dude. Hey, I live out in the boonies in Virginia, so I can feel the struggle. I don't have DSL, but I know what you go through to a certain degree. But
yeah.
you what were you saying?
I forget what you had just asked me. Sorry.
Like, do you have any issues that you feel like have been rampant for so long on eBay? Do you
Oh,
sell? You mentioned that you go through Troll and Toad Evo, stuff like
yeah.
that.
I also sell through PWCC. As I mentioned, I sent a bunch of my collection and inventory to them to their vault in 2021. But Yeah, I guess that's another comment that I could have made when you asked me some of the difficulties with it. I'm a person who I think I'm improving by necessity, but like I would get really worked up when I was dealing with a problem buyer. 99% of people on eBay are great. They just buy the item, you ship it to them. Whether or not they leave feedback, you never hear from them again. It's just done and over with, a successful transaction. But those 1% or less, some people can be a nightmare. Some people can be an absolute nightmare. And I used to really let it get to me, and I used to get really worked up. I still might have a bad day here or there where I get a little riled up over it, but being able to let things go and just it's part of business. You can't let it destroy you. The one bad customer out of every 100.
Yeah. Does it? Because like I know eBay feedback is such a huge thing, especially if you go down like people pride themselves in having that 100% buyer and seller feedback. Um, you know, I feel like if you've been on eBay for so long and then you have that one awful customer that gives you like a poor rating, I totally get it. I 100% will get super upset with that.
I think I've had at least one negative feedback, probably no more than three, because the way that it works, it only shows like your last 12 months.
Yeah,
So I won't drop off for like 6 more months. But I can't remember the last time I had zero negatives showing up
I'm
within a
not gonna
year.
go to Catch 'em All
I've
Collectibles
always
eBay
had at
store
least a
just because of it.
couple. I, again, that was another thing that the first time I got one, the first mark that I had in my account, I got really stressed out and got really negative about it. But the one that I currently have, I feel bad because like the person they said, hey, this is a gift. Can you not include a packing slip? And I said, yeah, sure. I think it was like a holiday weekend or something. When I came back in and I printed the labels the next week, I completely forgot about the request and I put a packing slip in. It was like a $20 card. And so the recipient of the gift saw what it cost in kind of an awkward situation, probably on their end. And completely my fault. I owned it. I took the negative, and in a year it'll be gone. It is what it is.
Yeah, we're lagging right now, so I'm waiting for OBS to catch up
Uh,
with. It's me, because OBS is saying it's in the red right now, so I'm waiting for it to get back to normal. I normally don't have these issues with
okay.
OBS on a regular basis. Well, this is the first time it's happened in a long time. Um, but we're gonna wait and see if it catches back up. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smoothness. But we're just gonna kind of carry on. Um, that's actually pretty cool
Okay.
that you wear like a badge of honor and you let that kind of slide. I don't think I've gotten any negative feedback. Granted, I don't operate full time on the on eBay. I mostly just buy off of eBay. It's not something that I'm consistently doing at all times. Right now OBS is just going between back and the red, and then it hits the orange, and then it hits the green, and then goes right back to the red. So, um, we are getting towards
Yeah,
that
like
hour mark. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was looking at my own feedback. I have 18,000 feedback, 60,000 items sold over the years. There's like no way you're gonna do numbers that big and then like not get the occasional negative.
Yeah,
So
of
I
course.
don't sweat
Yeah,
it too much.
yeah, 100%. That's pretty cool to hear. Um, so I want to know what the situation is as far as the shopping cart store, because I see it and I feel like it's an inside joke. Unless I'm a guy that watches your channel on a very very consistent basis, but it's kind of hard to watch everyone. So could you fill me in? Because people have been clamoring about it in the chat.
Yeah, so Nick and I do the Pokey Flips podcast. We
Mm-hmm.
did that for like my first video when I launched my channel was our episode number one for that podcast. We do it every 2 weeks. Recently, we took it off onto its own channel, but it was late last year. We had a podcast, and I forget honestly what the question was. We do a Q&A. It's not live, but people will ask questions, and then we give answers. Somehow it came up that I don't remember if someone directly asked us if we return our shopping carts or somehow it came up. But I found out like in the middle of recording our podcast that Nick doesn't return his. And I talked about how like people who don't return their shopping carts are bad people. And then come to find Nick was one of those people. So
Oh man.
people will constantly ask us, like when we have a guest on, ask them if they return their shopping cart. Like we had Mason from California. Yeah. So I did see somebody in chat ask, I think it was the Mexican hipster, asked if you return your shopping cart.
Yeah, I don't really take the carts. I typically go to the gym about 3 to 4 times a week, and so to Kroger, I just take the basket, get the very few
Oh,
items that my parents might need, and then I just put the basket back in the little slot at Kroger. And that's really it. I don't really take a shopping cart, but if I did take a shopping cart, I always put it back. Well, what kind of animal just leaves their shopping cart out in the middle of nowhere?
yeah.
uh,
My wife and I, we go shopping. Yeah.
Nick, you got to return your shopping carts, man. It's something that you have to do. It's 100% something that you got to do, man. Um, but talk a little, tell us a little bit more about your podcast, because I want to make sure that that's plugged in properly within this podcast. Talk about the Poke Flips podcast. What is it all about? I think 2021 we saw a huge
Oh,
rise of podcasts across the board. I know this podcast started back in 2020, August of 2020, and we rebranded. We brought it over to its own separate thing in April. I believe either March or April of 2021. A little bit about that. Like make sure you probably plug that in, because I want people to watch you guys.
yeah. So the first year of it, Nick and I kind of like cross posted. We both posted on our own channels, and basically all it is it's like a Q&A thing and everything in the hobby. And one thing we formalized is now that it's on its own channel, every other episode, so once a month, we'll be having a guest. Our first two guests were Peter from Ludkins and
Mm-hmm.
Polaris, the middleman, and then Mason from Cardinal Gaming.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And you guys do this every 2 weeks?
Yep. Yeah, it goes, we record it. It's like pre-recorded, not live. So we record it on every other Wednesday night, and then it goes up like Thursday early afternoon.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Um,
Yep.
and when you guys do these like off, whenever you guys are doing like these Q&As, how does that work? Are you guys doing it like through a Patreon, or are you just doing it like if people send you guys a Q&A, you guys are just recording it and then answering it? Like, what is that like?
Yeah, so like the episode that we just have, people ask their questions on that one. So it's all just through YouTube.
Mm,
People will ask
okay.
questions on that one. And then 2 weeks later, when we record, we just go back to that last episode, pull all the questions from there. Sometimes it's three, sometimes it's like 20. When it's that many, we just like rapid fire some of them.
Okay.
But a lot of times, like people are naturally going to ask questions kind of relevant to that time period, current. So a lot of times, like when some new service comes out, when there's some big news in the space that we want to talk about, Logan Paul's fake box, eBay authentication service,
Yeah, and then the two
PSA
weeks
pack
happen,
log.
and it's like, man, you lose the relevancy in the question in itself. No, I totally get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's like they say like the visual slash audio based podcasting that's put up on YouTube is the king of all content, because you're able to clip it up in a multitude of different ways. And like with this style of content, it's very hard to do, because something remains relevant for such a short amount of time nowadays. Like things pop off so fast that it's like, is this content relevant even two weeks after the fact? Is this content 2 years relevant after the fact? And it's difficult, but I mean, it comes with the territory as far as content goes. So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Are you guys strictly only available on YouTube? I know, if I remember correctly, Nick did say that you guys got on to Spotify recently, right?
Yep. Yeah. Through Anchor, we're available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts as well.
Okay, cool. That's pretty cool to
Yep.
hear. So make sure you guys are listening to them on all streaming services, Google, Apple, and Spotify. Make sure you give them a 5-star rating on those platforms, and if you can, give them a review, because Nick and Dan are really great people, and if you have time to go out to any of these shows, they're going to be available in Charlotte, and I know Dan's going to be available in Kansas City, right?
Denver.
Denver,
We're both
Denver.
intending to go to Denver as well.
And Denver. So if you do go there, make sure and you see them, make sure you stop by and say hello to them. Really, really good people to hang out with. And where can people find you on social media outside of YouTube?
Yeah, I'm KetchumAllCollectibles everywhere. I started a Facebook just because you can cross post so easily from Instagram.
Yeah.
But I've got like a couple thousand followers on Instagram, I think, and like maybe 20 on Facebook.
Hey, there you go.
That was a more recent thing. But yeah, Facebook, eBay, YouTube. I'm partnered with Pokenomics over on Patreon. So
Okay.
Pokenomics on Patreon. And then Pokeflips for YouTube as well with Nick.
Yeah, I think we want. I think I've been wanting to have Jake from Pokenomics come on the podcast. He has an open invite, so it just comes down to timing and scheduling. But it's really cool to have someone like yourself on the podcast because, like, I know that I've been scheduling out guests left and right, and I think I'm pretty much booked out until June. I think until maybe end of June with guests because I'm trying to have a guest every single week now. And just run it like it is because I think there's just so many great people in this community that again deserve to have their story told. And my channel isn't really that big, but I always learn something from people like yourself, and just hearing you saying that you put 5,000 in and that's what you kind of worked with for 6 straight years. That to me that is such a boss move. It's not even funny. But yeah, I'm glad that you joined the Poke Tea Time podcast. We hope to see you again. I know that every time I have a guest on here, I like to see them more and more frequently, whether it's at in-person events or on the podcast again. But again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. We do have a few sponsors to go through because this is a sponsor-based podcast. We have TCG Stadium. Go to tcgstadium.com to make sure you buy all your Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Modern-based product. We have the Pokemon Network. Kenley, he's your one-stop shop if you want to buy any of the cheaper slabs down to the most expensive slabs. And then we have Double Infinity Gaming. Double Infinity Gaming is an online card shop based in Florida. You can buy all your whatever TCG it is from them. Julia will. They'll make sure they'll take care of you. If you have any particular questions in regards to gameplay and stuff like that, they're very knowledgeable about that as well. We also have the Collector app. The Collector app is a free-to-use app. We're also not sponsored by them. I know a lot of people think that I'm sponsored. I'm not sponsored by Collector. People, like, I don't know why people make that assumption. Just because I'm in the app, I'm not sponsored. Like, I make $0 off of it. 0 cents too, but it's a great application. It has a multitude of different TCGs. I think it's still 8 TCGs. I think they just added on basketball cards as well, and even Funko. So you could track and add collections, even binder collections, raw cards, you name it. They have BGS on there. They have PSA on there. They're working on CGC. Make sure you go at them. Make sure you download the app. Make sure you follow them on social media as well to get the most updates when it comes to the app itself. But besides that, make sure you subscribe to the Poke Tea Time podcast channel. Make sure you subscribe to the Poke Flips podcast channel. Make sure you like and comment. Make sure you give us a 5-star review as well on Spotify and Apple Music. We're available on both of those. And that's pretty much it. Dan, there is a way that we sign off on every podcast. It's kind of cringy, but yeah. I'm sure you already know what it is, but just to walk you through it, we get an imaginary teacup. You sip up. We say peace out and then salute out. And that's how we do it. That's how we close every single podcast. So let's go ahead and get our imaginary teacups out. I hope the audience who are watching is doing it. If you don't, I'll cry. Sips up. Deuces. And we're out. See you guys on the next one. And again, we appreciate you, Dan, a.k.a. KetchumAllCollectibles, for joining this podcast. And we'll see you guys possibly Sunday. We have Pokemonster 89. We're going to be talking about the Miami TCG Con. So if you're available, if you're free to watch, make sure you watch us on Sunday. Thank you for joining us, Dan.